This is a Caffeinated Risk espresso shot.
The other thing we're missing in security, and I think especially with the ESRM focus of this podcast, we regularly talk about lots of different ways that your business can be disrupted. And we joked about APT losing their brand.
Yeah.
But, realistically, nobody's scared of APT anymore. They're scared of criminal gang X, criminal gang Y. Fair enough. But as an organization, maybe in some cases, your crown jewels is your brand. Like the only reason people buy from you over somebody else is because of this brand name.
Yep.
And you bring up a number of things in the assurance papers around trust with the marketplace, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And I think AI has just made that a dice roll daily. In some ways, it's amazing we would even sign up for this, but we're all in, which is even stranger.
Well, some of us are all in. Not all of us are all in.
No, us as an industry, IT business, whatever.
Yeah. Well, so we as practitioners think, wow, this is pretty cool set of tools, right? Think back to when the internet launched. That's where my career started, right? It's like, woo, there's 50 people connecting over the internet. And somehow we grew to 100,000 in a matter of a year. And this is how I landed in security. I was like, wow, you give a person an internet connection and suddenly they do bad things.
Yeah.
And then suddenly Patrick's a security. Yeah. Suddenly Patrick's in security, right? Because, I'm starting to see these trends where people are doing bad things because they have internet. Not how much bad stuff can you really do in like 1998 with an internet connection, but you'd be surprised, right?
Oh, we still got into trouble.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you still definitely got into trouble. But, and it got worse as soon as they figured out compression, right? Because as soon as you could send any kind of images, damn it was naked.
Yeah.
That followed right away, right? And so when I think about kind of where we're clamoring to here is I think that, the biggest thing I struggle with is a lot of organizations, they still don't understand the concept of inherent risk and residual risk, right?
Yes.
So every business has inherent risk, right? Whether you're a bank, whether you're an e-commerce retailer, whether you run a chain of gyms and have memberships and stuff, there's a level of inherent risk that comes with that. Now, your teams, right, IT, governance, your audit team, they all try to put controls in place, right? You get your policies, then those control objectives spill out to the organization, and they try and put in process and technical controls to be able to satisfy those policies. And what's left over, because there's always leftover, is called residual risk. That's before you add the business strategy on top of that. So let's say you're a bank, and your inherent risk is, yes, you run a bank and you have all these factors of inherent risk, but you're also a bank that wants to grow aggressively through mergers and acquisitions, and you want to buy 6 other banks this year. That changes your risk profile. And I think there's a huge disconnect in the language that we speak between security practitioners and architecture and the business to say, we can help you buy more banks and achieve your business objectives by applying some of these things to do it securely so that we don't open ourselves up for attack. But, a lot of these organizations are like, what the hell? I can save, $3 million by deploying AI to buy these banks this year. And, we could run our modeling based on, forget hallucinations for a second. We could run our modeling through AI, and now we can buy 17 banks this year. And there's no governance around it. There's really no way to test, is the model doing what the model is intended to do? Because there's really no policy for the model. There's no governance overseeing the model. So when it actually executes, they don't even know what if somebody was to put, poisoning in there, right? Like to inject bias into the model that produces hallucinations on the other side. There's no end to it, right? Think back to our oil days, right? I know some of you guys are still kicking around in there, but what are the 3 biggest things that an oil company that's pumping oil out of the ground care about? They care about not pumping oil out of the ground and making money. They care about natural disasters, and they care about loss of human life. And almost in that order, right? Like, so let's not kid ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And the reality is, if there's any way to do that faster, they'll do that faster.
Oh, yeah.
But, nobody thinks about, well, what happens if an attacker can get to our royalty management system that projects how many royalties we have to pay to the farmers or the landowners that we actually have pumping stations on? And what happens if they poison that data and say, no, you actually are not you're not producing 200 barrels a day from there. You're actually producing 2,000. Well, maybe we should slow production because we have too much inventory. Mm-hmm. That's an attack.
Yep.
Now you've messed with their supply chain. Now you've actually messed with their inventory levels, and you've actually, impacted or disrupted potentially their business, because now they go to their reserves and say, what the heck? I thought I was doing 2,000 barrels a day.
Yep.
I'm doing like 10. And I slowed production, and because it mismatched a simple royalty management system that nobody thought of as a part of their threat modeling. And I think we do a lot of that today. Like we seem to neglect the broader scheme of what a threat model needs to include, and AI just makes that worse. Like, it makes it significantly worse.
Yeah, and I think because you're like a lot of the attack surface management has to somehow incorporate threat modeling into these designs.
Yes.
I'm almost getting hives talking about threat modeling now, because I've been a fan of this forever.
Yeah.
And
yes,
it was in P-test before it was a thing, and Shostak's books have been excellent on this.
Yep.
And yet I don't see organizations even starting to try and do this. I remember trying to inject threat modeling into the front end of our pen testing practice, and customers just kind of staring at you like, what is this?
Well, because it's work, right? It's extra work, and it requires a couple of things that security professionals haven't been great at in the last 40-some years, is understanding the business, and then understanding what the business considers to be important.
Yes.
But then incorporating all of that into the modeling. So back to Patrick's example, if you were going to do the threat modeling, you would look at all the ancillary systems that support getting black stuff out of the ground to make money, and the royalty program would be one of them.
Yeah.
So if you looked at that and went, well, you mean I can go in and I just have to change a formula so that it's a divide by 100?
Yeah.
And no one's going to catch it because there's no process in place to actually validate the change in code. Awesome. Mm-hmm. But that has to be included. And we haven't been particularly stellar at that in the last 40 years, because we look at the primaries, but we forget everything that supports it. And that's why some of these amazing systems that have been breached in this last 20-some years, it's because they weren't included in the original threat model. Doug, to your point, it's like, why are you doing this? Why your quote was for X, and now we're looking at system Y. Get back to X. Just do the pen test on X. And that's what we've been having to deal. That shit we've been dealing with for 20-some years is that kind of shit. It's like, no, you said you were just going to look at this, but this system supports it. Get back to testing X, right? Don't look at Y, for Christ's sake. Get back to X. Yeah. Sorry, I'll get off my rant now. I'm better now, right? So, yeah.
No, man, it doesn't, and it doesn't get better, because imagine if you're not planning for threat modeling as a part of your product development lifecycle or your system development lifecycle, because test-driven development and security-driven development are two very difficult things, right? I've been trying to do secure SDLC for years, as you guys know, and the real challenge is the business context, right? Imagine taking an organization through threat modeling, and you introduce OWASP and their SSM model, right? And they find that painful. And the OWASP model is not painful.
That's a light touch compared to Stride.
It's very light touch compared to Stride, right?
Yeah.
You think about that. And, I had to take one fairly large software organization through FedRAMP, moving them from the public sector to FedRAMP and getting them primed to move into that environment. And I did take them through that OWASP security maturity model, and it was painful, but what we got on the other side was it was really magnificent. But here's the thing: a lot of organizations, especially when you're talking about larger, older organizations, they're still dealing in old two-tier applications, old code. Yep. Most of the time, they don't know who owns the application, right? It's like we did this project for an oil company. We said, okay, so this is actually your crown jewels. We need to figure out so who owns it? Well, Joe over in OT Systems owns it. Oh, so if Joe had to replace this system, he would write the check. Oh, no, that's not Joe. That would be so-and-so. Well, that's who owns the...
Correct. I need to talk to him, right? So yeah, that's the guy. Yeah.
And that's the problem is, so there's a disconnect between the ownership of risk and the people that are the trustees or the custodians of risk, like guys like you and me, right?
Yes.
And then on top of it, we don't prepare for that. Like, how many organizations, have a sandbox environment or have a testing environment? I mean, Doug, you remember we did a test on an emergency management system, and it was their production environment. And they said, kid gloves, because...
Don't bring it down, for Christ's sake.
It's the only one we have, right? It's like, wow, how can you do that? How can you have no fail-safe? How can you have nothing to fall back on when you provide emergency services, right? Like, forget it.